Okay, so we're back in MATLAB and we're going to write the commands to test those same conditions and see how we can get is safe to be true when the temperature is greater than 10 and less than 35. So I'm going to start again in the command window and then we'll go back up to our script and kind of edit it and go from there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set a variable called temperature, and we're going to start with 15. That was our first example. So I'm going to set my temperature to 15. I'm going to do two different variables for the minimum temp and the maximum temp. So the minimum temp, again, is 10, and the maximum temp is 35. And then I'm going to test if the temperature is safe. I'm going to call it temp safe instead of just is safe because now we're adding more variables. By saying, hey, MATLAB, is the temperature greater than or equal to my min temp? No space there. And is my temperature less than or equal to my max temp? Okay, you notice I've used parentheses here. Those are not 100% necessary. MATLAB is going to always do the relational operators before the logical operators, but it just helps once we get into more complicated scenarios to use parentheses to indicate to MATLAB the order that you want expressions to be evaluated. All right, so hopefully when I hit enter here, we're going to get that the temp safe is true. There we go, and the temperature safe is true. So let's try again using our temperature of 4. I'm going to set a temperature to 4, and then again use this command for temp safe. And I'm just hitting the up arrow here to get to my previously used command. So I'm going to hit enter here, and when the temperature is 4, we are not in the safe zone. So the last step is to test that high temperature of 38. And then again, as expected, we get that the temperature safe is false. All right, so let's go back up to our script. I know it's called turbidity. We can change the name of it, but we'll just leave it for now. And the first thing you'll notice here is that I renamed is safe to a variable called turb safe, which is the turbidity in the safe range. And now I'm just going to add some comments here so I can remember what's happening. So first is ask user for turbidity and determine if turbidity is in range. And then I'm going to come down here. I'm going to add a comment because I'm going to ask the user for the temperature, for water temperature, and determine if water temperature is in the safe range. Okay, so I'm going to say temperature is equal to input. What is the water temperature? Put a semicolon there. And then I'm going to set my min temp to 10, my max temp to 35, and then have temp safe equal to temperature greater than or equal to min temp, parentheses around this expression, and temperature less than or equal to a max temp. I'm going to leave the semicolon off this just so we can run it and see what it does. So it's going to ask me for the reading on the turbidity monitor. I'm just going to give it a 4.2. And then it's going to ask for the water temperature, and I'm going to say 15. So the temp safe is true. I misspelled that. I put that P there. Put that off there. Okay. So the next thing that I'm going to show here is that just at the beginning of this video, we can do this again for a vector entries. So I'm going to run this again, and I'm just going to put in 3 values. So I'm going to put in a turbidity of, let's do 4.7, 4.8, and 5.0. And so that should be safe on the first 2 days, but not the third. And we get this logical array that's 110, perfect. Now it's asking for temperature. So I'm gonna give 3 temperature values as well. So let's say we're in the summer, so it's pretty warm. So let's say we're at 35, and then it shoots up the next day to 39, and then it goes back down to 36. So the temperature is safe on the first and the third day, but not the second. And sorry, I messed that up. So the temperature is safe only on that first day, but not the second or third. Okay, so what if there's one more step and we really only want water to be used from the tank if all of these conditions are met? If the turbidity is less than 5 and the temperature is within the range between 10 and 35. We can do that by just combining what we've already done. So logically, you can think we have 2 variables now, 2 logical variables, turbidity safe and temp safe. And we're just going to see if both of them are true. So we're going to use an and. So I'm going to come over here and say, are all conditions met for safe water? And I'm going to say water is safe. That's only true when turbidity is safe and the temp is safe, right? So I'm going to put that in. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to put semicolons on the turbidity safe and the temp safe, and we'll run this first just with one value, and then we'll come back to these same vectors as before. So let's run this. Let's run this for a turbidity reading of, let's say, 4.8. And a temperature of 22. And thinking about that, this should be safe water. It's within the range. We have our turbidity less than 5, and our temperature is greater than 10 and less than 35. And we get that that is correct. Let's try it now if that turbidity goes up, and now our turbidity is 5.1, but our temp remains 22. In this case, the water is not safe. Our turbidity has increased a little bit. Our temperature stayed about the same, so the water is no longer safe. And then last, I'll show that this will continue to work with vector input. So let's put the turbidity again with that same, let's use these 3 again. And then the water temperature, and change this just a little bit to this one to be true. So let's say that's 34. Okay, so there is my turbidity for the 3 values and my temperature for the 3 values. And you can see that only on that first day is the water safe. So on that day, the turbidity is 4.7, the temperature is 35, so they're both within the ranges. But on the second day, the turbidity remained in range, but my temp shot up, so it's no longer safe. And on the third day, the turbidity went high, even though the temperature dropped, so it does not remain safe. I hope this is helpful. There's going to be one more video here where I encourage you to go through a very complicated example on your own, and then I'll show and share the results with another video.